Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast, your home for all things Washington Commanders. Family, if you're listening to this and you have not yet subscribed, change that right now. Go out there, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, help the algorithms. You know, we like those too. Also, make sure you turn your notifications on. Lastly, send this to one of your friends and tell them, hey, there's this dope podcast out there talking about Washington Commanders and Washington Commanders only. Share it with some people. Also, audio platforms, we're on all of them. Make sure you're listening there too in your car, when you're riding around on the metro, any type of public transportation, we're there as well. Fellas, we're going to continue our declassified series. We're going to talk about our newest cornerback, Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. We're going to jump right into this. So I'm going to tell you about Trey Amos, right? So his full name is Trenavian Amos, right? So he goes by Trey, which is a little bit easier to pronounce. He is
Who
23 years
knew?
old. Exactly. He comes from Iberia, Louisiana. He is 6'1", 190 pounds, which is pretty big for a cornerback. Colleges, he went to Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, from 2020 to 2022. He had one interception there. He then transferred to Alabama for a year. Now, he had offers from Michigan, LSU, other big-time programs. He chose to go to Alabama after playing for the Raging Cajuns. He had one start there in the lone year that he was there, 12 tackles. Couldn't get past the really good cornerbacks. I think Terry and Arnold and the other guy at Alabama, those guys were just not going to give up their spots for Amos. So it is what it is. Then he
Kool-Aid
went to
ain't
Ole
it cut
Miss.
you off. Was Kool-Aid still there
Huh?
when he was there?
Yeah,
Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid.
McKinstry? Was that the
Yes,
other
that's
corner at
exactly right.
Alabama? Okay.
Yep, exactly. Yep. 1 year at Ole Miss, he had 50 tackles. What I love the most, 4 tackles for loss, 3 picks, 13 passes, defended, first team All SEC. This man's been SEC'd out for a while. We picked him 61st overall, second round pick. In high school, this man was a state champion long jumper, right? Explosiveness. We talk about it all the time. Explosiveness. Great work with his legs, can move around, all those kinds of things. He also played quarterback in high school. I believe he was a lefty at quarterback. And then he also played, obviously, cornerback. So that's a little bit about Trey Amos. I don't want to spoil the food here on this one because we got a lot more information to get into. Mike, talk to me about his play style and then give us your system fits for Mr. Amos.
Well, I'll start off with the last thing you said because I didn't know. He played quarterback. That kind of makes sense because he has a high football IQ, man. I'm not going to sit here and lie. He reads the quarterback very well. He jumps route. He plays with anticipation. There's a certain defense that goes well with that. Pause for a second. He's a versatile corner, man. He's comfortable playing in any system, I feel like. Jumping to the system fit for a second, I feel like you can play him in man or zone coverage. You can play him in a cover 3 soft coverage, or you can be in an aggressive man blitz coverage. He's physical at the line, and that's why I feel like you can be aggressive with him. Strong hands. He has smooth hips, and he can, I'm not going to say mirror, but he can like shadow his receivers very well. Like, it's really hard to get away from him, man. And I just feel like that quick feet that he has, his solid footwork, and the speed, it makes him a really good corner. And you really have to question why did he fall to 61? Because he can play man defense. He can play zone defense. And he plays the run well, too. He really is a complete corner. And I feel like you have him with Witt and Dan Quinn, people that are known to make corners better, and it's just a great fit. So as far as system fit, whatever, like whatever system you want them to run them in, you want to run them in the Todd Bowles cover 2, he fits. You want to run him in the what's his name, Jim Schwartz. I can't remember the type of defense he runs, but it's a very aggressive defense. He would fit in that too. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is like his RAS score was the lowest among all of Scott McLuhan. Shame on me. And in front of Adam Peters, he was the lowest RAS score of all of Adam Peters' draft picks, right? So remember what I told you about Amos in terms of like him being a state champion long jumper in high school, right? But his RAS score was only 8.88. And what's surprising to me is that his vertical was only 32.5 inches, which wasn't great. And his broad jump was only 10 feet, 10'6" or something like that. Which is, I say only, that was good. But for a state champion long jumper who probably jumped 24, 25 feet in high school, I would think that would be a little bit.
No.
A state champion? You don't think he jumped 25 feet?
No. I mean, no. National champions in college don't jump 25 feet. Or he probably jumped 22 and a half.
The state champion,
Maybe
okay,
he might have
I'm going to tell him.
Feet. Yeah, you can. If he jumped 25 feet.
State champion. I promise you. In my track meet, when I went to the state championships, the guy that won it jumped 24.3 in high school. So it happens. Actually, I think it's a lot more common. I'm gonna look this up.
You should.
But anyway, not to derail the show.
Some kid in high school jumped 25 feet. He's going full ride to USC on a long jump scholarship.
A lot of jumpers out there. But anyway,
25.
So I said 24. Okay, his 40-yard dash was in Louisiana. Eric, we're talking about Louisiana. Come on, man. They got athletes.
What city was he from in Louisiana? He was from some single A school. Iberia, Louisiana. There was 36 people in their district.
All right. He was a 4.440 guy and a 1.58 10-yard split, which actually was an okay number according to the RAS score. So not the most explosive cornerback. You do hear about his deep speed being a slight concern, and his ability to become a little bit over aggressive playing the receiver might be some of why he fell. Now, over to Eric. Let's talk about his college productivity, his NFL comparisons from your perspective, and then in his pro outlook that you have.
Yeah, the fact that he couldn't get on the field at Alabama just speaks to how good that defensive backfield was. Because he was, obviously, when he played at Louisiana, he was great. He got better every year. He kind of went through that. He recorded 13 pass breakups over 3 years with steadily increasing playing time. It got better every year. His last season at Ole Miss, he recorded 13 pass breakups, which I love, with also 3 interceptions. -1 yards returning, though. Not in love with that, but who cares? Very, very he's a very solid corner. He's a very good press corner. You kind of touched on a lot of his numbers earlier, so we won't give that to everybody else again. But 5-year player in college, got better every single year, with the exception of the 1 year at Alabama, where just everybody was so good, it was tough to crack that lineup. NFL player comps are fun. The most common one that I read was Carlton Davis, and I do like that. But being that this is a Dan Quinn defense, not to steal thunder from Mike, because I think I know where he's going with scheme fit. But Richard Sherman is a fair comp. Now that's a little bit bold and aggressive, but if you're just looking at play style, very similar. You can kind of alternate between a press man, or you can sit back and zone, but he may not be like an off man guy. Very similar to like what a Richard Sherman was. James Bradbury is another guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of. I think he's a little bit better in press man than James Bradbury is. But I think he's got some really good NFL comps is what I'm getting at. I'm not going to directly compare him to Sherman, because Sherman's going to be a Hall of Famer. That's not fair to Trey Amos, but the play style is definitely there. So as far as player comp, my official one is I'm going to stick with the common one. I'm going to go Carlton Davis. That's a pretty fair comp for him.
I just thought of something. Like, it really just hit me.
Oh, he's a little faster than all those guys. That's the best part. All those guys were like 4.5 guys, and Amos is like a 4.4 guy. So there's that.
4.44. Did he run a 4.3 something?
4.44. He was like 4.44.
Okay.
4.46, something like that.
But what I was going to say, something that just dawned on me, because I honestly don't have a comp. It's hard to narrow it down to one player, and that's kind of been the theme of the draft this season. It feels like there's It's been hard for me to narrow it down to one particular player when it's a player comp, like with the running back Krosky Merritt. We threw a lot of names out there. Even in the comments, they threw more names at us. And the same with the receiver, the linebacker. So that's one thing I'll credit to the staff, the scouts, Peters, everybody. It's hard narrowing down player comps, and I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Mike sent me, he jumped 22. What was it, Mike, in the long jump?
23, I think.
That's fair.
27-9 or something like that.
Well, the other thing about when you talk about explosiveness, one thing to talk about is
22-9-7-5.
Yeah, that's good. That's a state championship level high school jump. 23 in high school was crazy. 24 in high school, he's probably training for the Olympics he was at one point.
I looked it up. The year I was in high school, 24 was our state champion at the track meet at James Madison University. That's where our track meet was. So maybe not everybody does that, but we did have a guy there do that. Anyway, as you were.
So one thing I was saying about the explosiveness is, when you look at the vertical and the broad jump numbers, good to keep things in perspective. Very few people have a 32-inch vertical jump. Lawrence, you and I were both high school high jumpers. We both jumped 6'7" I don't know what your vertical was. Mine was 29.
40.
And yours was 40. I believe that. I do. But yeah, I had a 29-inch vertical and I was a 6'7" high jumper. So, and the reason I say that is because there's 1 foot leapers and 2 foot leapers. And I was a 1 foot leaper. And that's why my vertical was never so impressive. And I kind of feel the same about somebody who was a state champion long jumper, but didn't have a great broad jump. Because it's a different jump. It's a different type of jump. Yeah. And some guys are just better with a running start off of 1 foot than others are. And I know some 2 foot leapers that can't jump for anything off of 1 foot. So I don't hold that away. I think there's plenty of explosiveness to be had. You look at that 40 split, that 10-yard split in the 40, that tells you what you need to know. That guy's got some good short area burst for sure.
No doubt. I can get down with that. And everybody that's going to be in the comments, you didn't have a 40-inch vertical. Yes, I did.
He did. I've seen him jump.
Track. We are track boys.
Why would he lie?
Why would he lie?
That's right. And I'm 5'11" for those asking, and I could dunk when I was in 9th grade. All right. No more, though. No mas.
I could dunk in 10th grade.
All right. Let's continue. Oh, so your peak was you like the Carlton Davis one the most? Is that what?
Yeah, I like Carl. It's fair. I don't love it because I think Amos is maybe a little better athletically. But Carlton Davis is a legit NFL corner, and if he turns out Carlton Davis, I think you did all right for a 2nd round pick.
So last week we did the ceiling, median, and floor. I want that from you again. Like, is Richard Sherman your ceiling for him?
Yeah, I mean Richard Sherman's gonna be a Hall of Fame corner if he's not already. So yes, he's ceiling. Floor, I'll give you a name. I don't love this. Is not a great comp, but play style wise it is, but like physically it's not even close. Roger McCreary. I believe he plays for the Titans, came out of Auburn. Mm-hmm. Very similar mentality, mindset, play style. Just the physical limitations are just too much for him to overcome at times because he's not like a long rangey explosive athlete like what Amos is. But yeah, that's probably your floor. Somebody like Roger McCreary, who's still a decent NFL corner, nice NFL slot player. He's fine.
You would take McCreary over St. Just and Forbes.
Yes. Right. Yeah, I would take McCreary over those guys.
Well, either way,
he's not gonna be starting on the outside. If he is, you're in trouble. But he's kind of a like Igbenogany type player. Yeah. That's what I give McCreary. He's a fine player. He's good depth. He'll make a play for you. He can start in a pinch. He may even be their starting slot corner. I don't know, but yeah, McCreary's fine. And if he turns out that ends up being his floor, that's a little disappointing, but it's okay.
That's right. Mike, give me your ceiling, median, and floor for him.
I was trying to compare it to Washington players to see if it's a way I can, make it relatable for us. But I really can't think of anybody on a 1-for-1 player comp. The 2 names that came to mind, honestly, were David Amerson and Bashad Breeland, kind of a hybrid of those two. But a more, how can I say it? A more savvy version of those two. I guess I'm just saying that's the best I can give you. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's really hard for me to make a player comp with him, man, because he kind of does everything, even if not well, he does it. So yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give you a player comp this week. I really can't.
Rashad Breeland's not a bad comp. Probably a higher football IQ, but yeah, Breeland's not a bad comp. Emerson was more of a zone
rookie year,
more of a zone guy.
Yeah,
but yeah, Breeland's not a terrible comp.
So usually I love my comps, and this week I didn't love them. There's one I like, but two I don't like that much. So his floor, I went Carlos Rogers. You guys remember him? He was with us. Only because he didn't have a massive amount of interceptions in college, and Carlos Rogers, man, would not catch that football, but he'd make the play that was there to be made. That's kind of what I see his floor to be. Carlos Rogers got a bag from San Francisco after he left Washington. And then I think he went on to Minnesota as well. Or maybe I got those two backwards, but he definitely had a nice career in the NFL. Who I think he ultimately ends up being like, or at least the highest degree of likelihood, Ronald Darby. Ronald Darby, I think, is the comp I like the best for him. Ronald Darby with the Broncos, and then Ronald Darby when he came over here was a good player. He was a really good player. He started for us. We felt it when he left Washington for sure at the cornerback position. But I think the young version of Ronald Darby is a pretty good comp. And then from a ceiling perspective, and this is really more just on what I would want him to be more than I think ultimately what he becomes, Marlon Humphrey from the Baltimore Ravens, right? So I think they're similar height. I think Humphrey's probably a little bit more, has a little bit more weight to him. I think Humphrey might be over 200. I think Amos is in the 190s, but Marlon Humphrey is a playmaker. He gets his nose dirty in the running game. You can just count on him. And every time Baltimore needs a big play in the secondary, he's making it. He's a team leader. He's vocal. I will say this too. One of the things that I like the best about Amos is that when I was doing my research on Amos, I didn't find a lot of reports saying, hey, he's a great guy, right? I'm sure he is a phenomenal individual, but I like a little bit of like a mean streak with your secondary players, kind of like wide receivers, right? Like you like good guy wide receivers, you need some dog in them, right? That's kind of where I see like Amos. I think Amos is like we said last week. Does Lane have that dog in him? Amos has that dog in him, and he kind of wears it, right? Like, and I love that about him. So it's like it's not quietly aggressive. It's not quietly, just out there. He believes in his skill set to the highest degree, and it may rub some people the wrong way, but I love that in a secondary player because you're going to get beat sometimes, and you got to have the confidence to rebound from that, and I think he has it in spades. Okay, back to the unusual programming. So in terms of his ability to start this year, I think he does. Right? Because you have we signed some guys in the offseason. We'll get to those. But you have Samistro. We think he's going in the slot, right? Do we all agree that we think Samistro is going to kick back inside, or you guys think he's going to go outside, right? Okay.
Lattimore mix it up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I think if we're talking about just primary positions, we'll throw him in the slot and three cornerback. Then I think you have Lattimore. Now, Lattimore and his injury issues as he gets older, I don't think are just going to evaporate. So he's going to miss at least a game. So by that very statement, Amos is going to start somewhere, right? But then you talk about like Jonathan Jones, right? We signed him out of New England. He's 31 or so. I think he starts the season as a starter potentially, and I think Amos may take over for him at some point throughout the season. But between Lattimore and Jones, I think Amos will start quite a few games this year for us. So I think his potential to start is nearly at 100% at some point throughout the season. Mike, what does he bring to our cornerback room that other cornerbacks on our roster that we have currently do not?
But obviously, I feel like size and length is the biggest thing. I'm not sure exactly the measurables of Lattimore, but he can't be too much taller if he is taller than 6'1". He might be 6'3" at best. I give him that. But still, Amos brings additional size and length. He plays the ball in the air, man. That's something I don't understand. It seemed like for all my life since, well, at least since Champ left and Sean Springs, I guess, and D'Angelo Hall. Since Hall, let's say that. The corners for Washington suck at playing the ball in the air. Like, just last year, it was so bad. They literally lost games because they couldn't track the ball in the air. Trey Amos doesn't have that problem. He might get beat here and there, but if he's in the vicinity when the ball's in the air, he's either going to turn his head, something that we always ask people to do, or he'll read the receiver's eyes. Like, he's a good cornerback at tracking the ball in the air. The pass breakups, E mentioned it earlier. I think Ellie mentioned it too. 13 pass breakups in his career. That's good. Last season, that's good. And he's experienced in multiple systems already. You can't say that about the other young cornerback that we have on our team. Mikey only played at Michigan with Harbaugh and with Quinn, so I guess you can give Amos kind of an edge on being able to learn and perform in multiple teams and whatnot. So he brings a lot of things to the secondary that we desperately needed, especially when it comes to pass defense. And I think he's a plus, definite plus.
Can I give you one more comp I was trying to avoid giving you because I hate the team he plays for?
Uh-oh.
Trayvon Diggs from the Cowboys. Same.
Really?
Yeah.
He does play the trail technique kind of okay. And that's something that when I say we, I mean football fans in general, kind of got on Diggs about. He gets beat a lot because of the trail coverage. It's hit or miss. If a quarterback makes a nice pass, you're going to get beat. But it'll benefit him, especially with this team. When you're thinking about it as an overall team, you got an offense that's going to put up points, which means that the opposing offense is going to have to throw the ball more, and that should lead to more chances of mistakes being made, which will benefit him in the trail technique. So I can understand the Diggs comp. I'll give you that.
And the potential to get beat on double moves because he's looking for the play, the big play. I don't like it because he's a Cowboys player, but
I
don't see it. He doesn't strike me as that aggressive from what I've seen so far. I don't know that he's as aggressive as Diggs is, but well, it remains to be seen.
I think he's got it in him. But anyway, I think whatever. I mean, if we get Trayvon Diggs out of him, like the Cowboys got, bro, I'm not mad at that, right? Like, you're going to get frustrated sometimes because you're going to get beat and give up big plays, but that man turns the ball over, right? He creates turnover and opportunity. All right. Eric, if you were to pull out, or actually answer this for me first, and then we'll get to the second question. Why do you think Adam Peters chose Amos over the other cornerbacks that were available at that time in the draft?
I think he was just by far the best corner, probably the best player left on the board for him at 61. I think everybody across the board agrees that 61, nobody really expected him to drop that far. I guess there were some concerns over a back injury that a lot of teams shied away from him, and that's why he was there. But most people were surprised that he made it. Most people had him late first, early second. So the fact that he slid all the way down to the bottom of the second round was really surprising. And to me, it seems like I think he was easily the best corner left on the board and probably the best player on the board at 61.
Yeah, especially with the drop of Will Johnson. The fact that Amos was still there in the second was kind of surprising, but he was a 6th overall rated prospect according to NFL Draft Buzz. Travis Hunter was obviously the number 1 cornerback, even though he went primarily as a wide receiver. Jahade Barron from Texas. They had Will Johnson 3rd. Siobhan Revelle Jr. was 4th. Benjamin Morrison was 5th, and then Trey Amos. And then they had Azare Thomas, Maxwell Hairston, Darian Porter, so on and so forth. So I agree.
That's a weird list.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a weird list. I don't know who else had. Yeah. I don't know.
You
who else
said
has
Draft Buzz had him as the 6th overall player, period?
Cornerback.
Oh, okay.
But the fact that you had Benjamin Morrison ahead of him and like Harrison, that's just a weird. I'm a fan of Benjamin Moore Paint, but I don't know about quarterback. I don't know. I think I'd rather have Amos.
Not to talk about other team players or draft picks, but I mean Morrison was all right. This the injury I thought that people, but if he was healthy, I'm pretty sure he would have went in the first. Well, I can't say that.
Yeah, he'd be
the same thing about Amos too. So
I think coming out of college, Morrison was much more highly regarded than Amos was. So I agree. If he was healthy, I think he'd be the second corner off the board after Travis Hunter, for sure. Out of Notre Dame, Morrison is a dog, and he's aggressive as all get out, and really intelligent player. But I like Amos. I'm not, this is the Amos Declassified episode, right? All right. Now, what I was going to say to you, Eric, was so if you put on your Swami hat, the crystal ball, and all that stuff, what is Amos? What does he become? What is he for the Commanders? What can Commanders fans expect from Amos?
But I think the long-term plan is cornerback 1 down the road. Maybe not right away. I think he's. I think you said Jonathan Jones kind of gives you the luxury of not having to start him not having to start Amos before he's ready. But I don't think it'll take long for Amos to be ready. If he's healthy, I mean, I can't see him not starting by like second quarter of the season. Like if he's not a starter by like mid-October, something's gone wrong, either an injury or he's just not the player we think he is. I think he's going to be a good player this year. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time, see a lot of action, and hopefully, take over that cornerback 1 slot for many years to come in the very near future. We have Lattimore, and hopefully Lattimore kind of returns to form. I certainly think Lattimore will be better than he was for us last year, just with the whole, off season and everything. And hopefully he can stay healthy more often than not, so that we don't have to count on Amos sooner than we need to. But I don't see any reason why Amos can't become the top corner on this team, in the first 2 to 3 years of his career.
Man, that's a lot of confidence there. So you're a big.
I like Trey Amos. I like Trey Amos a lot. In that way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Mike, what's your sort of early career synopsis of Amos?
I'm gonna have to stick with what I said probably last year. I'm gonna say it again this year. Just having Dan Quinn and Joe Witt as coaches, it really does boost my confidence in the secondary overall. I feel like it's wonderful that the weak point of the team is the defense. When you have Dan Quinn and Joe Witt as your coordinator and head coach, that's a great position to be in my opinion. So them bringing in a corner like Trey Amos in the second round, him falling to Washington at that pick, I mean, I really, really think that he can develop into a nice CB1 early in his career, I'm sorry. And if Lattimore is able to stay healthy, it'll be nice to have a CB1 B. So I really do have high hopes. I'm just as high as E. I really like his attitude, man. I like his versatility. The fact that he can pick up multiple defenses and thrive in each stop that he was in. Even in Alabama, it's just that there were other more mature players in front of him. So he's battle tested. I feel like he can just be thrown in the fire. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes out of training camp at CB, at least one of the starters on the outside. High hopes for the Bama, for real.
I think there's definitely opportunity for him to overtake Jonathan Jones. From a contractual standpoint, I got to look at what we gave Jones. And then if Lattimore, he's not going to overtake Lattimore if Lattimore's healthy. I don't think that's going to happen, especially what they gave up to trade for Lattimore. But if Lattimore is taking days off in camp just to stay healthy, I think that gives Amos a lot of opportunity to run with the ones and to show what he can do. And in the long term, I really think he's going to be a very, very good cornerback for the Commanders for a long time. I'm talking like second contract type of good. Um, I think there's a few things that he lacks that keeps me from saying that I think he's going to be elite, but you don't have to be elite to be a CB1 in this league, right? And what he lacks is just the top end athleticism, right? The top end explosiveness and things like that. And then, of course, his play discipline and how that plays out will be really important for him, especially regarding penalties, right? Because it doesn't matter how good you are, if you're giving up 60-yard penalties on deep routes, then you're not going to get to that second contract in the way that you want to arrive at that second contract, right? The thing that concerns me the most about Amos and really all of our secondary is where's the pass rush coming from this year, right? Even the best corners struggle without a pass rush. And so we have to be able to create a really good pass rush up front between all the defensive ends we just signed. And we just signed a defensive tackle too, didn't we? Another one today. I forgot what his name was. Was it? I think he should play with Tampa Bay. But that's it. Like if we don't have pass rush and he's asked to cover for 4 and 5 seconds, I think he's going to struggle like most defensive backs would. But I have confidence like you, Mike, and Joe Witt and Dan Quinn that they're going to be able to put together packages that create pressure or simulate pressure on the quarterback. And I think he's going to be really, really good. And what he does with those things that he still needs to get better at will determine a lot for me in terms of what he is overall in the long term. But he's definitely a starting cornerback, whether that's cornerback 2 or cornerback 1. I think he's definitely a starter for us for the next 5 to 8 years. So, all right, Eric, any final thoughts on Trey Amos?
Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2039.
My
Let's
goodness.
go.
No, 2042.
Let's go.
2042. There you go.
Ooh, my goodness.
Let's go.
By the way, Jonathan Jones, 1 year, $5 million deal. Yeah, Amos can walk all over that if he wants to. That's backup cornerback money if it needs to be. Mike, final thoughts on Amos?
I was bored when I was studying him, young. I'm not going to lie, I was bored. And that's exactly, I think, what you want in the cornerback, to be honest with you. Did he get beat a lot? Yes, but he executed plays well. And like I said earlier, having Dan Quinn and Witt will unlock his full potential. High hopes for Trey Amos. He's going to be the next famous Amos.
Yeah, and personality-wise, he's going to fit right in D.C. for sure. He might be driving around listening to Go-Go before too long.
Go ahead.
Out of all the rookies that we've done declassified episodes on, if you guys were going to take your $100 and go buy one of these jerseys because you were sure they were going to be here for the duration of time, which one would you go get, Eric?
Whose jersey would I buy if, well, first of all, I do not buy jerseys, especially of active players. But if I were going to.
Of the rookies we've already done declassified episodes on.
Okay. So now no Josh Connerly jersey then.
Not yet, no.
Yet. Okay. Yeah, probably boy, that's a tough one. Yeah, I'll go with my guy Amos. I was tempted to say Krosky Merritt, but running backs are so short-lived in the NFL. Amos might be a guy. He'll be here for a while.
I like it. I think that's smart. Mike, what about you?
I think any answer might be good except for Madrano, but something telling me, man, Lane might be one of them ones, man. He might be one of them ones with you got that quarterback, you got 5 on your team, man, and I'm just saying, I'm thinking about that Virginia Tech tape, and I was not bored watching that tape, and that's what you want when you're watching a wide receiver. Even though Tech's offense, I'm sorry, it was boring. Like, it just didn't do nothing. But Lane made it exciting, and I feel like it's a dark horse. I feel like Amos and Krosky Merritt might be better choices, but something telling me, man, this man Lane might be one of them ones for real.
Yeah, I think I like Lane. I like his positional value that he brings in the role that he's going to play. I would say Amos because I'm more sure that Amos is going to be a long-term starter than I am that Lane's going to be our long-term wide receiver 1 or even our wide receiver 2. I think Lane will have a role for years to come, but is it going to be a role as a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 or wide receiver 1 or 2? Only time will tell. And there's still a lot of variables out there to determine that, right? If Cliff Kingsbury moves on and goes to a new team, I'm less sure about Lane, right? If Joe Witt and Dan Quinn go to another organization, God forbid, I still think Amos will be a starting caliber cornerback, right? Medrano's a special teams guy. Nobody buys special teams guy jerseys. I love them, but that's not how it goes. And then I think with Krosky Merritt, he's the one I'm most excited about for the ones that all the folks we've talked about thus far. But he's also the most risky because the team loses the least if they move off from him. You know what I'm saying? So tough sport out there, man. But I like all of our draft picks so far. We're looking forward to Amos conquering the field this year and taking out A.J. Brown. And who do the Giants have? Malik Neighbors and all those bums. No, they're not bums. They're very good receivers. But I think Amos is going to give us some competition there. This has been Trey Amos Declassified. Make sure you subscribe, share the podcast, hit the comment section. Let us know what's going on. We are out of here. Peace.